Delta IELTS Advantage Speaking and Listening Skills by John Marks. Copyright Delta Publishing 2013. Unit 1. Listen 1.
Good morning. My name's Janet Miller. Can you tell me your full name, please?
My name's Nairan Bunmi.
And can you tell me where you're from?
I'm from Thailand.
Can I see your identification, please? Thank you. In the first part, I'd like to ask you a few questions about yourself. What do you do? Do you work or are you a student?
Well, actually both. I'm a part-time student. I'm doing a degree in business studies. I'm also working as a lifeguard at my local swimming pool.
I see. What's the most interesting part of being a lifeguard?
Well, to be honest, it's not a very interesting job. Most of the time, we just wait by the pool. The most interesting part is probably the conversations I have with the other lifeguards. I've got to know them all pretty well now.
What's the most difficult part of being a lifeguard?
We quite often have to tell children to stop behaving badly. And occasionally their parents get angry with us. Don't tell my children what to do, that kind of thing. That can be difficult.
Would you say it's a good occupation?
Well, yes and no. It's a very pleasant job in some ways, but as I said, it can be boring and it's not very well paid. That's why I'm doing a degree. I want to get something better.
I see. What are your career plans for the future?
When I graduate, I want to get a job in a financial institution, maybe a bank or insurance company. I haven't decided exactly what yet, but something like that.
Okay. Now let's talk about music. What kind of music do you like listening to?
At the moment, I don't have a lot of time for listening to music. But my favorite type of music is...
Unit 1. Listen 2. In the first part, I'd like to ask you about the place where you live. Can you describe the building you live in?
Yes, I live in an apartment block. It's got, I think, 8 floors and we're on the 2nd floor. It's a modern block. I think it was built about 20 years ago.
Is it similar to other buildings in the area?
Yes, it is. There are lots of blocks very similar to mine in that part of the city.
Is it in a convenient location for you?
No, not really. It's quite far from the city centre. I'm studying at a college on the other side of the city, so I spend about 2 hours on the bus every day. It's quite boring. The bus is always quite crowded and I often have to stand. Actually, it's probably the worst part of my day.
I can imagine. Apart from the buses, do you like living in your city?
Yes, I do. There's always a lot going on and all my friends are there. It's very lively in the evenings. There are a lot of good bars and restaurants, and people come from all around the city to meet their friends and have a good time. It's a very good atmosphere.
What changes would improve the area where you live?
Like most cities, there's far too much traffic. I was talking about my bus journey every day. It's only about 10 kilometers, but it takes so long because most of the time the bus is stuck in a traffic jam. Also, sometimes the city is quite polluted, especially when the weather's cold and there's no wind to blow away the pollution. So, less traffic and less pollution would be big improvements.
Okay, now let's talk about films and TV. What kinds of films and TV do you like watching?
I don't go to the cinema very often. In fact, I haven't been for years. I don't watch a lot of TV, but when I do, I like to watch...
Unit 2. Listen 1.
I'd like to ask you some questions about your free time activities. What do you do at the weekends?
Well, my final exams are next month, so at the moment I don't really have any free time at the weekends or any other days. However, in general, when I have free time, I like doing outdoor activities. In particular, I really like land yachting.
Land yachting? What's that?
Well, you have a little chariot with 3 wheels and a big sail. You sit on the chariot and catch the wind in the sail to make the chariot move. There's a big, flat, windy beach quite near where I live, which is ideal for it. It's also called beach yachting and also land sailing. You don't have to do it on a beach. Any flat land will do.
I see. What is it that you like about this sport?
On a windy day, the chariots can go really fast, and because you're so close to the ground, you really feel the speed. It's a thrilling experience. To tell the truth, though, for every 10 minutes you spend on the chariot, you probably spend an hour setting up the equipment and waiting for the wind to be right. But that's all part of the fun, too. It's great being outdoors by the sea.
How often do you get the chance to do it?
In theory, you can do it all year round, but it's not a lot of fun in the freezing cold. It's mostly a summer sport. I suppose April to October are the main months. You also need wind, of course. Another factor is the other people on the beach. In July and August, the beach can get quite crowded, so at that time of year, we mostly do it quite late in the day, when the beach is emptier. So generally, I do it at the weekends, from late spring to early autumn, but a bit less in the middle of the summer for the reason I just said.
How important a part of your week are your free time activities?
Actually, not really that important. Perhaps if I was working, my time off would be the most important part of the week in some ways. But because I'm a student, I don't so much feel the need to let my hair down at the weekends. I enjoy most of the time I'm studying too. It's not like doing a stressful job.
Do you enjoy your free time more now than you did when you were a child?
That's a hard question to answer. I don't really remember how I felt about my free time when I was a child. I used to go sand yachting then too. It was my father who got me started. I used to find it quite frightening, and now I don't. So, in that respect, I suppose I enjoy my free time more now.
What free time activity would you like to try in the future?
I'd love to try real sailing, with a boat on the sea or a lake. I've never done it. I imagine it's probably a bit more difficult than sand yachting.
Unit 2. Listen 2. Now, let's talk about books and magazines. What kind of books and magazines do you like reading?
I'm really not bothered about magazines. I never buy them, and I hardly ever read them. Only if I'm in the dentist's waiting room or somewhere else where there's nothing better to read. I don't really have an opinion about them.
I see. So what sort of books do you like?
I don't read many novels. I'm much more interested in non-fiction. I'm a big fan of biographies. I think there's a lot to be learned from the lives of famous people. I like reference books. Obviously, you can't sit down and read an atlas or a dictionary of quotations, but I often spend time looking through that kind of book. Again, there's a lot to be learned from them.
Do you like reading any other types of book?
Well, as I said, I don't read many novels. I quite like crime fiction. At the moment, I'm reading a book by Michael Dibdin about an Italian detective called Aurelio Zen. It's quite good.
Have the types of book you like changed over the years?
Sorry, I didn't catch that. Could you repeat the question?
Have the types of book you like changed over the years?
No, not really. Obviously, my tastes now are different to my tastes as a child, but apart from that, I don't think they've really changed at all.
Do you prefer reading books or newspapers?
Well, I'm obsessed with news and current affairs. I buy 2 newspapers every day and I read both of them. I spend much more time reading newspapers than books, so I suppose that must mean I prefer them.
Unit 3. Listen 1.
I'm going to give you a topic and I'd like you to talk about it for 1 to 2 minutes. Before you talk, you have 1 minute to think about what you're going to say. You can make some notes if you wish. Here's a pencil and some paper for making notes.
Thanks.
Here's your topic on this task card. I'd like you to describe the job or career you have or hope to have in the future.
Okay, thank you.
Now, remember that you have 1 to 2 minutes for this. Don't worry if I stop you. I'll tell you when the time is up. Can you start speaking now, please?
Right, okay. I'm going to talk about my job as a waiter. It's not a very difficult job, of course, but it's more complicated than most people think. The customers are spending a lot of money and they expect to have a perfect evening. You have to be kind of an actor, playing the role of the perfect waiter. It can be hard to do that at the end of a long evening when you're tired, but I try my best. Most of the customers seem nice people. I enjoy meeting them, and I want to do the best I can to help them have a good time when they come to the restaurant. So, why did I choose to become a waiter? Well, actually, I didn't really choose it. A couple of years ago, I had just finished college and didn't have a job. A friend of mine was working in the restaurant and somebody was off sick, so I went to help out for a few days. Then I just stayed. I started to like it. The basic pay is very low, but I earn quite a lot in tips, so in fact, it's quite well paid. The best part is that I have a lot of fun with the other people who work there. We're all really good friends. The only part of the job I really don't like is the hours. I can never go out on a Friday or Saturday night because I'm always at work. However, I'm not going to do this job for the rest of my life. I've been applying for other jobs recently.
What sort of jobs have you been applying for?
My degree is in media studies, and so I'd really like to work in the media in some form. So I've been applying to local radio stations and a local TV production company. They don't have any vacancies at the moment, but I keep reminding them who I am. I'm going to apply to some other companies related to the media as well.
Unit 3. Listen 2.
Good luck with that. Can I have the task card back, please? Thanks. We've been talking about jobs. I'd like to discuss with you 1 or 2 more general questions relating to this. Let's consider the balance between work and free time. Do you think that the balance between work and free time in your country is about right?
I think it depends. For example, people who have government jobs mostly only work around 37, maybe 40 hours a week. However, in my country, a lot of people have their own small businesses. Really, a lot of people. And if you have a shop, for example, it can be difficult to decide to close. You don't know if another customer is just about to come through the door with a lot of money to spend. From what I've seen, people with their own shops regularly work extremely long hours, up to perhaps 14 hours a day, 7 days a week. The same can be true for other people who work for themselves.
I see. And what problems can be caused by too much work, do you think?
It can cause problems for family life, in my opinion. It's obviously not very good for children if they hardly ever see their parents. And from what I've seen, it can be very bad for relationships between married couples if they just work continuously and never have any fun together. I'm sure this is a common reason for divorces.
What can people do if they feel they are expected to do too much work?
Well, there's a law in my country which limits the working week to, I think it's 48 hours per week, maybe even less. But bosses frequently take no notice of this, so it can be a problem. If somebody is asked to work more than this, they should speak to their boss and ask to be given less work. But, of course, this can be difficult. It's not always easy to make a complaint to your boss. From what I've seen, they tend to make employees feel guilty for complaining.
Now, let's consider workaholics. Why do you think some people work so much that they become workaholics?
Workaholics? Obviously, it depends on the person, but in my experience, it's not really the money that makes them workaholics. I think it's just something in their personalities which doesn't allow them to stop thinking about work and switch off. For example, I have a friend who runs his own website. He works on it all the time. I don't think he sleeps much. But he doesn't make a lot of money from it, just enough to live. And I don't think he would make less money if he worked on it less. He's become a perfectionist. Every part of the site has to be absolutely perfect. It's become a kind of obsession for him. I think he's happy, but he just doesn't really have any interests at all, apart from his work. I guess that's just how he likes to live his life. It's up to him.
Thank you very much. That's the end of the speaking test.
Unit 4. Listen 1.
I'm going to give you a topic, and I'd like you to talk about it for 1 to 2 minutes. Before you talk, you have 1 minute to think about what you're going to say. You can make some notes if you wish. Here's a pencil and some paper for making notes.
Thank you.
Here's your topic on this task card. I'd like you to describe a teacher who influenced you.
Okay, thank you.
Now, remember that you have 1 to 2 minutes for this. Don't worry if I stop you. I'll tell you when the time is up. Can you start speaking now, please?
I'm going to talk about a teacher I had at primary school. This was when I was about 10 years old. He was a drama teacher, but he wasn't a permanent teacher at the school, and he didn't come every day. I think he visited just 1 day a week, and the other days he worked in other schools in the area. Well, I suppose he did. I never asked him about it. Anyway, I was quite a shy kid. I didn't have many friends, and I wasn't very confident about most things. We started drama classes when I was 10, and I absolutely loved it. Instead of being shy, I was much more confident, and I found I could make the other kids laugh. This drama teacher noticed that I was good at acting, and he encouraged me to take the lead role in the school play that year. At first, I didn't want to, because I felt too scared to perform in front of the whole school, but he more or less forced me to take the role. And he was right to do that, because I was a big success in the play, and then instead of being a bit of a nobody in the school, everybody knew who I was. I had many more friends, and I became less shy. I did some more acting afterwards at secondary school, but after a while I lost interest in it. The way that drama teacher influenced me was by helping me to increase my confidence and making me believe in myself more. I'm sure that helped me in later years.
Would you like to meet this teacher again now?
Well, he was pretty old then, probably just before retirement. I hope he's still alive. If he is, I'd like to thank him for forcing me to believe in myself and take that part in the play.
Unit 4. Listen 2.
Can I have the task card back, please? Thank you. We've been talking about teachers and schools. I'd like to discuss with you one or two more general questions relating to this. Let's talk about the schools in your country. Do many of them have problems with children behaving badly in lessons?
Well, I don't know much about what happens in schools today, but a few years ago when I was at school, I'd say yes, there was a problem with some students behaving badly. It wasn't in all lessons, but in some lessons a lot of time was wasted with the teacher trying to get everybody to stop talking or sending messages on their mobile phones and start working.
Why do you think some children behave badly in lessons?
That's a good question. I think there are two reasons. Partly, I think it's because some of the children don't have enough respect for the teacher. Perhaps this is something their parents should have taught them. However, I think the main reason is often that the lessons aren't interesting enough. If the students don't respect the teacher, you have to ask why they don't respect him or her. In my experience, the teachers who gave interesting lessons didn't usually have many problems with discipline.
In your country, do you think most pupils find the school subjects interesting?
Well, again, I think there are 2 points to make here. One is that it depends on the students. For example, some kids find maths fascinating, others find it really boring. The other point, though, is that it can depend on the teacher. A good teacher can make a boring subject interesting, and vice versa. It's up to the teacher to make the pupils interested in the subject.
Have schools in your country changed since you were at school?
I haven't really thought about that. As I said, I don't know much about schools today. I imagine they've changed in some ways. For example, when I was at school, quite a lot of students had mobile phones with them all the time, but now I expect almost all of them do. Or perhaps none of them does. I think I heard that mobile phones have been completely banned in some schools. I expect there are more computers now too. At my primary school, there were about 200 children and one computer room with about 10 computers. I'm sure there are more than that now.
Do you think children today are different to children when you were young?
Well, I do know something about this. My sister has twins aged 11. I meet them and their friends quite often, and they seem a bit different to the 11-year-olds I remember. Although they're very similar in many ways, they seem a little bit more confident, and they also seem to know more about the news and current affairs. When I was 11, I don't think I knew much at all about the news, but they seem to know quite a lot, more than I do sometimes.
Thank you very much. That's the end of the speaking test.
Unit 5. Listen 1.
I'm going to give you a topic and I'd like you to talk about it for 1 to 2 minutes. Before you talk, you have 1 minute to think about what you're going to say. You can make some notes if you wish. Here's a pencil and some paper for making notes.
Thanks.
Here's your topic on this task card. I'd like you to describe a city you have visited.
Okay, thank you.
Now, remember that you have 1 to 2 minutes for this. Don't worry if I stop you. I'll tell you when the time is up. Can you start speaking now, please?
I don't have a lot of experience of visiting other cities. I live in Rome, which of course is a very big city, and when I go on vacation with my family, we prefer to get away from the city and go to the beach or visit the countryside. So, I'm going to talk about a very small city in the south of Italy called Lecce. It seems more like a town, really, but technically it's a city because it's the administrative capital of the region. I don't think it's well known outside Italy. I went there because 2 years ago my family had a beach holiday about 20 kilometers away, and we went into Lecce to go to restaurants there. I remember it well because we went there 5 or 6 times. When you drive through the outskirts, it really doesn't appear to be a very interesting place. I'm not saying it's unpleasant, but there are lots of very ordinary apartment blocks and a lot of traffic congestion. However, when you actually get to the center and find somewhere to park, it's very nice. There are several beautiful old churches, and the historic center is surprisingly pleasant. Most of the shops seem quite old-fashioned. Some of them give the impression that nothing has changed since the 1950s. The whole place feels very relaxed, and the local people are extremely friendly. You get the feeling that they're happy living there and are proud of their city. I liked it very much.
Would you like to live there?
Yes, I would. I think I'd be very happy there.
Do you think you will visit Lecce again?
I'd like to. Perhaps we'll have another summer holiday in that area sometime soon.
It sounds a nice place.
Unit 5. Listen 2.
Now, can I have the task card back, please? Thank you. We've been talking about towns and cities. I'd like to discuss with you 1 or 2 more general questions relating to this. Let's talk about living in cities and the countryside. Do you think life is better in the city or in the countryside?
I suppose it depends on the person. In many ways, life is easier in the countryside. By that, I mean that there's more space, no crowds, and it's usually cheaper to live. On the other hand, it can be a lot less interesting. Most cultural activity goes on in cities. Personally, I wouldn't want to live outside a city, but I've lived in Rome all my life. I imagine that if I'd lived all my life in a small village, I probably wouldn't want to live in a city.
In many countries, cities are growing fast. Why do you think this is?
I'm not sure. Perhaps it's because in some countries the standard of living in the countryside is very low, and life for a lot of people is just about growing enough food to live. I guess many people in that situation A. get bored and B. hope to find a higher standard of living in the city.
What problems can rapidly expanding cities have?
Let me think. Well, when cities expand very rapidly, it's often without any control over how they develop. In other words, they become megacities with huge shantytowns and no proper, infrastructure for millions of people. Unfortunately, a lot of people don't find the better life they were hoping for and can end up in an even worse situation. This is probably one of the biggest problems we face today.
Some cities receive millions of visitors. What problems can this cause?
Well, this is an entirely different problem, and I know a lot more about this because I live in Rome. If you go into the historic center on a Saturday in the summer, it can seem that you're the only local inhabitant there. The problem is that cities with too many visitors can lose their original character. Although, of course, it's not a problem for people who own restaurants and shops in the historic center. To put it another way, tourism supports a lot of people financially.
What can be done to ensure tourism doesn't cause too many problems?
That's not an easy question to answer. If you limit tourist numbers, you also limit the benefits to the local economy. And how do you limit visitor numbers? You can't put a wall around the city. If the tourist board in my city tried harder to promote the less famous parts of the city, the visitors might spread out. There are some beautiful areas outside the center, with some great historic monuments, but very few tourists go there, because they're all in the most famous places in the center.
Thank you very much. That's the end of the speaking test.
Unit 6. Listen 1. Can you start speaking now, please?
One of my favorite TV shows for a long time has been The Simpsons. It's very famous, but I'll describe it anyway. It's a cartoon sitcom about an ordinary family in an ordinary town in the USA. There's a large cast of other characters, and sometimes famous people play themselves. It's been running for more than 20 years, and it's one of the most popular TV programs in the world. I sometimes watch it on regular TV, which is dubbed. At the moment, it's on Sunday evenings. I don't enjoy that so much, partly because I think the dubbed version isn't quite as funny as the original version, and partly because they only show old episodes, and I've seen most of them before. Last year we got satellite TV, and we get a channel which shows the original English version. I much prefer that. It's quite fast, and I find it quite difficult to follow, but I usually watch it with subtitles in English, which helps. I sometimes record it and watch it again, and the second time I can usually understand it a lot more easily. The reason I like it is simple. It makes me laugh. The humor is very fast, and it seems a little more sophisticated than most sitcoms. There are lots of little extra jokes which are easy to miss, but which you notice the second time you watch it. Some people say it isn't as funny as it used to be, but I disagree. I think it's as good as it's ever been.
How much TV do you watch?
It depends. In the winter, I watch quite a lot, maybe 15, 20 hours a week. But in the summer, I watch a lot less. I prefer to be outside with my family or friends.
Unit 6. Listen 2. We've been talking about television. I'd like to discuss with you one or two more general questions relating to this. Let's talk about the news on TV and from other sources. How important do you think it is to keep up to date with news and current events?
I think it's very important to know what's happening in your country and in the world. Having said that, I don't actually follow the news carefully every day. I think it's essential to keep up to date with major events, but I don't think it's necessary to follow the details of every news story. At least it isn't for me. I just follow the main stories.
In your opinion, what's the best source of news? TV, newspapers, the internet, or something else?
Well, I mostly watch the news on TV, but I think newspapers are probably the best source. They go into much more detail than TV news, and there's more variety. They cover a much wider range of stories. I'm not sure about the internet for news. It's very convenient to be able to check the news anytime you want, but I'm not sure that all news sites are very good quality. On some of them, there seem to be a lot of stories about celebrities and not so much about serious topics and events.
Let's talk about other types of reporting now. Documentary films for the cinema seldom attract large audiences. Why do you think this is?
I suppose they're just not as entertaining as fictional films. They may be exciting for people who have a special interest in the subject, but apart from that, they tend not to have a lot of appeal. On the other hand, a good fictional film can be entertaining for almost everybody. When people go to the cinema, mostly they want to be entertained rather than educated.
Some people feel there should be more serious documentaries and dramas on TV and in the cinema. Do you agree or disagree with this?
I don't really know if I agree or disagree. Of course, it would be good to see more serious TV programs and films, but I'm not sure it's a good idea to try to control what kind of things get made. TV companies and film producers make what they think people want to see. I can't imagine them making things people don't want to see, just because somebody tells them to.
What do you think could be done to promote more serious types of TV program and cinema film?
In my country, we have one arts channel which is owned by the government. It shows documentaries and films that probably wouldn't get shown on more popular channels. I think film festivals are a good idea too. They generate a lot of interest in smaller films and independent producers. Many of those films are documentaries and serious dramas.
Unit 7. Listen 1.
Can you start speaking now, please?
Most summers when I was a child, my family went to the same campsite in a family holiday resort, an old fishing village called Puerto Nuevo, on the coast, a couple of hours by car from our home. It wasn't a remarkable place. The beach, which was really big and sandy, I liked very much, but the town itself wasn't beautiful or interesting. And I don't remember there being anything much there apart from a few hotels, restaurants, and self-catering apartments. But I loved those holidays. Usually my parents were quite strict, but on holiday, my sister and I were allowed to do more or less whatever we liked. We had so much fun. Whenever it was sunny, my parents liked to lie on the beach working on their suntans, and my sister, who's 2 years younger than me, and I used to make sandcastles, explore rock pools, and play with other kids who were there. In the evenings, we went back to the campsite, which had a wonderful view out over the sea, and usually had a big barbecue in front of the tent. I have very happy memories of those holidays, and whenever I visit a small beach resort, I remember those times.
Would you like to visit this place again?
Yes, I would. I haven't been back since the last of those holidays, which was when I was about 15. It would be great to see the place again and find out if it's changed much.
What kind of visitor do you think this place suits best?
I think it's perfect for families with children who just want a pleasant, relaxing beach holiday and who don't want to spend a lot of money.
Unit 7. Listen 2.
We've been talking about holidays. I'd like to discuss with you one or two more general questions relating to this. Let's talk about travel and tourism in general. Millions of Western tourists visit holiday resorts in developing countries. What do you think attracts them?
Well, price is probably a major factor. It tends to be cheaper to visit developing countries. For many Western tourists, though, perhaps it's more because they want to have an experience which is really different from their normal lives. They feel they will be able to get that by visiting what seems, to them, an exotic country far away.
What difficulties can Western visitors experience in developing countries?
Things that they take for granted back home, such as clean water, good roads, and electricity that's always on, may not be available. Another very common problem is getting ill, especially from eating food which has been washed in unclean water. A friend of mine went to India recently. She told me she was there for a month and spent the entire time feeling sick. A third problem is that some areas may be dangerous. Obviously, there are problems with violent crime in almost all countries, but in a very different culture, it can be difficult to judge what kind of situation is potentially dangerous.
How can large numbers of Western visitors affect the lives of ordinary people in developing countries?
The obvious benefit is that tourism can create jobs and provide money for the local economy, which can then be spent on improving schools, hospitals, etc. The downside is that rich foreign tourists who don't know what things normally cost can cause prices to rise for local people. If you're a pineapple seller, for example, and tourists will buy your pineapples for $5, then why sell them to local people for $1?
What do you understand by the phrase responsible tourism?
Responsible tourism. I think that means being aware of the effects of tourism on local people. It means you should behave in a way which benefits the local culture, or at least doesn't harm it.
What can visitors do to ensure they are responsible tourists?
Obviously, it's important to do some research before you go so you know about local problems, like water shortages, for example. Then, when you arrive, it's a good idea to try to spend money with local businesses. For example, eat in locally owned restaurants rather than international chains, that sort of thing. It's also important to respect local customs and behave in a civilized way. Just because you're a long way from home, it doesn't mean you can behave however you like and do whatever you want, regardless of the feelings of local people.
Unit 8. Predicting and Practicing 1. Exercise 2.
What's your name, please?
Gérard Ozeville.
How do you spell that?
First name Gerard. Surname Ozeville, Ozeville.
Thank you. And can I have your address, please?
Sure, it's 16A Aston Street.
How do you spell that?
Aston.
Thanks.
Ilfracombe, that's Ilfrakombe. Postcode EX349GW.
And your telephone number?
It's 01272 863 990.
Can I take your credit card number, please?
It's 4893 9607 6220 4554.
Thanks. And the expiry date?
It's 11/19.
Thank you very much.
Can you confirm my booking, please?
No problem. Here it is. Check in the 16th of July, check out the 21st of July, one standard double room.
Thank you very much.
Hello, what are the prices for next Saturday evening?
It's €42 for the front rows of the stalls. That's rows A to H. And all other stall seats are $29.50. Circle seats are all $34.50.
Thanks. And what time does it start?
7:30.
Unit 8. Predicting and Practicing 1. Exercise 4. You will hear a woman phoning a hospital to ask about a job vacancy advertised in the local newspaper.
Good morning, Englefield Hospital Human Resources Department. My name's Dawn. How can I help you?
Hello, I'm calling about the job advertised in yesterday's evening news.
We have several jobs advertised at the moment. Which one are you calling about?
X-ray department receptionist.
Oh yes, I remember that vacancy. Right, can I just take some details first? Starting with your name, please.
Jill Addiston.
OK. Is that Jill with a J?
Yes, it is.
And how do you spell your surname, please?
It's Addestone.
OK, thank you. And can I take your address, please?
Sure. It's number 147 Bonham Street.
Is that Bonham?
That's correct. And the city is Leicester.
And can I take your postcode too, please?
Of course. It's LE2 6HV.
Right. And just one more thing for the computer. Can I take your phone number, please?
I've just moved there and I only have a mobile at the moment. Is that okay?
That's no problem at all.
Right. It's... let me think. I keep forgetting it. OK. It's 074 88 269 010.
Can I ask, do you have any previous experience of reception work?
Yes, I do. I've been a receptionist at the Imperial Hotel for the last 13 years, but it's closing down next month, unfortunately.
I see. I'm sorry to hear that. There's just one more question I need to ask you. When would you be available to start?
Just a moment while I look at my diary. OK. I could start from Monday the 11th of June.
That sounds fine. Well, we're interviewing Wednesday and Thursday next week. Is there any particular time you can't manage then?
Well, I can't do Wednesday, I'm afraid, as I'll be at work. But Thursday's one of my days off, so any time then would be OK?
10:30 a.m?
That's fine.
And you know where we are?
Yes, I do. The address is in the advertisement. But do you mind if I ask a couple of questions about the job? I'll have to travel quite a long way, and I want to be sure it's the kind of job I'm looking for.
OK, that sounds reasonable. What do you want to know?
Unit 8. Predicting and Practicing 2. Exercise 2. Extract 1.
So all my possessions will be covered, is that right?
No, not exactly. It covers all possessions except bicycles and cameras. You'd have to get a separate policy for each of those. Extract 2.
So what type of accommodation are you looking for exactly?
A one-bedroom flat. It's just for me, so I don't need anything larger.
Extract 3.
So now we just need to choose the restaurant.
Well, ideally we want somewhere that's not too expensive and a type of food that everyone likes. But the most important thing is that it's near the office. We'll be walking there and back, and we don't know what the weather will be like.
Unit 8. Predicting and Practicing 2. Exercise 4. You will hear a conversation in a school between a teacher and a parent of one of the pupils.
Hello, excuse me. Do you have a moment?
Yes, of course. How can I help?
I wondered if you could answer a few questions I have about the school trip next week. I think all the children were given a letter about it to give to their parents, but I'm afraid my son Ian lost his on the way home. I don't even know where he's going.
Oh, yes, you're Mrs. Ogilvy, is that right?
Yes, I am.
I don't teach Ian myself, but I know who he is. He's doing very well in the school football team. Anyway, the trip's to Whitsmead Wildlife Park.
Oh, yes, I know it. It's very nice.
The coach leaves at 8 a.m.
Where does it leave from? Outside the school?
No, not exactly. The road's too narrow there for coaches. It's leaving from the public car park.
The one next to the school?
That's right.
Will my son need to take a packed lunch?
Yes, he will.
And anything else?
No, that's all, I think. There's just one other thing. We're still waiting to hear from the coach company how long the journey's going to take, so we'll be phoning all the parents in a day or two to tell them the exact return time. But it'll be sometime between 5 and 6, probably.
I see. That's fine. But I'd better give the secretary my new contact details. We've just moved.
I'll make a note of them right now, if you like, and pass them to the secretary later. Would that be easier?
Yes, that's very kind of you.
I'll just get a pen. Bear with me for a moment.
Unit 8. Preparing to answer 1. Exercise 3. You will hear a number of different recordings, and you will have to answer questions on what you hear. There will be time for you to read the instructions and the questions, and you will have a chance to check your work. All the recordings will be played once only. The test is in 4 sections. At the end of the real test, you will be given 10 minutes to transfer your answers to an answer sheet. Section 1. You will hear 2 people discussing travel arrangements from an airport to a city centre. First, you have some time to look at questions 1 to 5. You will see that there is an example which has been done for you. On this occasion only, the conversation relating to this will be played first.
So the flight lands at just after 11:30 in the evening. How are we going to get to the city centre?
I've got the airport website here on my phone. Let's have a look and see what the options are. I just need to find the right page. Yes, here we are.
What does it say?
There's a shuttle train. They go every half hour and it takes 12 minutes. Oh, that's quick.
The train journey takes 12 minutes. So the answer 12 minutes has been written into the table. Now we will begin. You should answer the questions as you listen, because you will not hear the recording a second time. Listen carefully and answer questions 1 to 5.
So the flight lands at just after 11:30 in the evening. How are we going to get to the city centre?
I've got the airport website here on my phone. Let's have a look and see what the options are. I just need to find the right page. Yes, here we are.
What does it say?
There's a shuttle train. They go every half hour and it takes 12 minutes. Oh, that's quick.
Not bad. How much does it cost?
It's $15.
That sounds okay.
But unfortunately they only run from 5 a.m. to 11:45, so that's no good. We'll be arriving just too late for the last one. Never mind. There's a 24-hour bus service. They go at 20 minutes past the hour, so if we miss the 12:20, we could get the 1:20.
How much is it?
It's only $11, but it takes 45 minutes. That's quite slow, and it's a long wait if we miss the 12:20.
What about a taxi?
It says here a taxi takes about 20 minutes. It doesn't give the cost, though.
It'll probably only be a bit more expensive than 2 bus tickets, and we won't have to wait.
The website gives a link to an airport taxi company. Let's have a look. Yes, it's got all the information here. It costs $38 and it's also a 24-hour service.
I think that's okay.
It's not a lot more expensive than the bus for two of us and much more convenient. They take advance reservations too.
I think we should book it then. Arriving at that time of night, we don't want to find that there aren't any taxis there.
I agree. Shall I read out the details and you write them down?
OK, what does it say?
Before you hear the rest of the conversation, you have some time to look at questions 6 to 10. Now listen and answer questions 6 to 10.
Normally, you go to their office in the arrivals hall in the airport, but after 10 p.m, the office is closed.
Oh, does it say what you have to do if you arrive later than that?
Yes, you have to call them when your plane lands.
That's OK. Our mobile phones will work there.
You give them a call when your plane lands, and then the taxi will be waiting for you outside the arrivals hall by a sign that says Airport Taxi Service. You have to pay the driver in cash, so we'll need some dollars.
Do you know if there's a cash machine at the airport?
Yes, there is. I used it last time I was there.
So that's no problem. Is there an online booking form?
No. To make a reservation, we have to phone the office between 7 a.m. and 10 p.m. Or we can book by sending them an email. We just email them our details and then they'll send us a booking reference number which we have to show to the driver. That's all.
OK, let's do it by email then. It'll be easier than phoning. What's their email address?
It's info@ercancars.com. That's info@ercancars.com. Got that?
Yes.
Good. I'll open up the email on my phone and send them one right now.
Unit 8. Predicting and Practicing 3. Exercise 2.
Thank you for coming to this introductory talk. Firstly, I'd like to welcome you all to Beechwood Holiday Village, or welcome you back if you've stayed here before, of course. Well, first things first, sorry to start with this, but we've seen quite a few cars parked on the road leading to the town today. Please note that guests should park their cars in the designated area by the main entrance. At busy times that can become very full, and for when this happens, there's an overspill parking area to one side of the village, on the far side of the pool. There are always plenty of spaces there, and it's just by the river, so you won't get lost. We ask you not to leave your cars on the road because local residents use it to park on, and if they can't find a space, we get some angry phone calls. So thank you in advance for your understanding about this. Now, as I'm sure you're all aware, the village is divided into two zones. The larger zone at the front of the complex, where we are now, is the family zone. The children's play area is here, between the main car park and Sandcastle's restaurant, where we're sitting now. Of course, everybody is welcome in this part. Then on the other side of the river, we have the adults-only zone. I expect those of you who've checked into this part are hoping for a peaceful holiday. So those of you with kids, please do try to make sure they understand that they shouldn't cross the river. Down the far end of the adult zone is another restaurant and attached bar. As you'd expect, that's also for adults only. But it's open at lunchtime, so those of you with kids taking part in our Kids Club activities don't need to miss out. You can get yourself an excellent lunch there while we're entertaining your youngsters. Now, the path running alongside the river, that leads down to the beach, as I expect you've all discovered already. And of course our lovely barbecue area is down there on the sand. Oh, one last thing. I hope you will remember to bring everything you need. But if there's anything you've forgotten, you may well find it for sale in our mini market. It's easy to find, right next to this restaurant and just a few steps from the swimming pool. You can't miss it.
Unit 8. Preparing to answer 2. Exercise 3. You will hear a speaker talking to a group of local people who have come to hear about the arrangements for a boat show. First, you have some time to look at questions 11 to 15. Listen carefully to the first part of the talk and answer questions 11 to 15.
Good afternoon. Thanks to you all for attending this planning meeting for this year's boat show. As you all know, it's the biggest boat show in the country, and this time we're expecting more visitors than ever before. So we need to make sure everything is properly planned and runs as smoothly as possible. Let's look first at the plan of the main show area. Does everybody have that? Good. Those of you who have been involved with previous boat shows here will notice that we've made some major changes. Instead of having several entrances, we've decided to have just one large one for visitors and a small service entrance off to one side for exhibitors and technical personnel. This means that if you're a visitor, the first thing you'll see when you enter is a digital information board showing the events of the day. Beyond that are some steps, and you go down these to the main display area, passing the first aid tent on your left, and then the main snacks and refreshments area on the right. Last year's catering wasn't a great success, to be honest. It made very little money for the show, and we're hoping to do much better this year with a much wider range of products. And on the subject of spending money, we're also going to install a couple of cash points just behind the refreshments area. We don't want people running out of cash while they're here. Anyway, going back to the main route through the showground, the steps lead down to the exhibition area. Now, before you reach the boats, you're going to see the stands of the smaller companies who make sails, navigation equipment, nautical paint, that kind of thing. The suppliers, in other words, rather than the boat builders. We've arranged it like this because last year, the companies with those stands complained that very few people visited them. This year, you'll have to go right past their stands in order to get to what most people will have come to see, all the very latest boat designs. So, there you have it. Quite a different layout to last year.
Before you hear the rest of the talk, you have some time to look at questions 16 to 20. Now listen and answer questions 16 to 20.
We've also made some changes to the ticketing arrangements. This year, we've started selling tickets 6 months in advance, instead of 3, and have already sold a lot, although this may be because we're actually reducing the cost of tickets this year. That's right, you heard correctly, we've cut the cost of normal tickets. We're also selling e-tickets online again this year, despite the technical problems we had last time. Then they were a little cheaper than paper tickets. The price of the online tickets remains unchanged, and they now cost the same as a paper ticket. Why are we reducing prices when everybody else is raising them? A criticism in the past has been that tickets are too expensive, and we want to make the show affordable for everybody. To compensate, we're raising the fees slightly for the exhibitors' stands, and we'll also add a bit to the price of the brochures. They sold extremely well last year, and nobody seemed to think they were too expensive. Another big change, as I've no doubt you're all aware, is that we've extended the show by 2 days. As well as increasing ticket sales, we're hoping this will help to ease some of the problems we've had in recent years with traffic congestion in the surrounding area. Connected with that, we're also hoping to encourage more local people to leave their cars at home by halving the price of the special shuttle bus from the city centre. Those are all the main points, I think. Are there any questions so far?
Unit 9. Focus on Formats 1. Exercise 3. I understand why you want to do 20th century American novels, but the problem is that the seminars coincide with the seminars for 19th century poetry, and you said you wanted to do that, too.
What if I did medieval poetry and 20th century American novels? That's possible on the timetable.
Well, yes it is, but all your other courses have focused on the 18th century and later. If you do a course on the medieval period now, it won't fit very well with the other things you've studied, will it? This is your final year, so you won't have time to do any other medieval courses.
That's true. I do want to do some poetry, though. I haven't done any yet. Only novels and plays.
The only other poetry course next semester is contemporary poetry.
Well, as I said, I've done several courses on the novel, and contemporary poetry would go very well with 19th century poetry, wouldn't it? It would be interesting to compare poetry from the two different periods.
That means you won't be able to do 20th century American novels. The course won't be running again this academic year.
I can live without it. I did contemporary American novels last semester anyway.
Okay, that's fine by me then. Unit 9. Preparing to answer 1. Exercise 2. Alex is a student at university. He has handed an essay to his tutor. The tutor has read it, and now they are discussing ways the next essay he writes can be improved. First, you have some time to look at questions 21 to 25. Listen carefully to the first part of the conversation and answer questions 21 to 25.
Hello, Alex.
Hi.
Well, I was impressed by your essay. It's certainly an improvement on the previous one.
That's good news. I worked on it for a long time, and I remembered the things you told me to do in our last tutorial.
I can see that you did. You've addressed most of the problems I pointed out last time. In particular, you make points clearly and then support them with evidence, as we discussed.
So that aspect is all right?
Definitely. But you could still do some work on the structure. All the points are good and well supported, but I didn't really sense an argument developing. It seems more a list of points.
Okay, I see. As you suggested, I read some other essays and tried to use a similar technique for the structure. I thought I structured my arguments better this time too. I was quite pleased with the results.
Well, it's an improvement on your previous work, and this is still only the first term. I'm not expecting perfection at this stage, and there are one or two other small things you could look at. You still give your opinions in a way which is too personal. It's okay to say what you think, but it should be a supported argument, not just a sentence beginning with, "in my opinion." You did that 3 or 4 times.
So I shouldn't do that?
No, not in formal academic writing. You should always write in a more impersonal style than that.
Okay, I see.
And there was one other thing. What was it? Oh yes, the length of the paragraphs. They're too long. In the second paragraph, for example, you make 2 main points, and it should be 2 shorter paragraphs.
Okay, yes, I can see now that should be 2 paragraphs. I'll be more careful about that next time.
Good. It's not a difficult thing, really. I'm sure you'll get the hang of it soon enough.
Is there a maximum number of words for 1 paragraph?
Interesting question. Not really. but each paragraph should have one clear aim. In some academic books, paragraphs occasionally go on for several pages, but the writer will usually be making one main point.
Yes, I've read some like that. Shorter paragraphs are certainly easier to follow.
Yes, indeed. And in undergraduate essays, unless there's a very good reason, a paragraph shouldn't normally be longer than 300 or 400 words. If you find one has come out much longer than that, see if you can find a way to divide it into two.
OK, I understand. I'll remember that for next time.
Before you hear the rest of the conversation, you have some time to look at questions 26 to 30. Now listen and answer questions 26 to 30.
The only major problem is one point you make towards the end, in your penultimate paragraph. You said that Antarctica remains the world's last unknown continent. What did you mean by that?
Well, we don't really know very much about it, just that it's very cold.
But that's not really true, is it? There are dozens of scientific bases there, with thousands of scientists collecting data. What you said was true 100 years ago, but not now. A huge amount of information has been collected about what's both above and below the ground there.
Yes, I hadn't really thought about that. I know, for example, a company called Eskom has been exploring for oil and minerals there. I read about it recently.
Well, that's true, but it's not really what I was thinking of. Mostly, there's been a lot of research into climate change, some of it done by this university, in fact. Some regions there have been studied in much more detail in that respect than most places in Europe and America.
Yes, of course. I hadn't really forgotten about the scientific exploration angle. I suppose I just meant that there are large areas that have never been visited by people.
There are, of course, but it's all been closely mapped by satellites. We know what's there, even if nobody has seen it with their own eyes.
So, did I lose marks for that?
Well, to be honest, yes, a little. But don't worry too much about that one small point. In general, it's a good piece of work for a first semester. Well done. And I look forward to reading the next one.
OK, thanks very much.
Unit 9. Focus on formats 2. Exercise 2.
It's not only natural changes and local residents' activities affecting the water supply. Few tourists used to venture into this inhospitable region, but an ever-increasing number of camel trekking adventure tours and the like are bringing in more and more visitors. Their demand for water has put even more strain on an already fragile ecosystem. Some Western tourists use more water in 2 weeks than a Saharan resident uses in 6 months. On the positive side, visitor awareness of these issues is increasing, and there have been several successful ecotourism initiatives. Nevertheless, far too many visitors still regard the Sahara as an adventure playground and have little respect for its local people.
Unit 9. Preparing to answer 2. Exercise 2. You will hear a talk by a college lecturer about an early method of printing photographs. First, you have some time to look at questions 31 to 40. Now listen carefully and answer questions 31 to 40.
Good morning. My name's Alan Wood, and I'm a lecturer in graphic design and printing. I'm asked by my students how it was possible to print photographs in books, magazines, etc. before the technological processes we have today were invented. Well, a number of techniques were developed, but the most successful was called photogravure. We tend to think of the mass printing of photographs as something that only became possible in the late 19th century. But in fact, photogravure was developed in the 1830s by one of the pioneers of photography itself, an Englishman called Henry Fox Talbot. The original process was rather limited in what it could do, but in 1852, Talbot patented his photographic engraving technique. This technique was capable of printing good quality images of both photographs and photographs of illustrations and works of art. In fact, to begin with, it was probably more widely used for printing photos of artwork than for printing photos of people and places, because there was more commercial demand for that. Talbot's process was refined by a Czech painter called Karel Klich, and in 1878 he perfected a significantly improved version of the technique. This is called the Talbot-Klich process, and is still in use today for making very high-quality prints. However, it's now only practiced in a few dozen workshops around the world, and I'm sorry to say that production is in decline at the moment. So, how does the photogravure process work? Well, it's quite complicated, but I'll give you the simplified version. To begin with, you need a sheet of very smooth metal, usually copper. You then attach the photo you want to print to this metal sheet. The next stage, I don't have time to describe in detail, but it involves using acid to burn the surface of the metal. This eats into the areas covered by the darker parts of the picture more than it eats into the lighter parts. Then the acid is washed away, leaving holes in the surface of the metal. So, for example, if you were working with a picture of a zebra, the black stripes would be the deepest holes in the metal, but for the white stripes there would be no holes at all. Grey parts of the picture would be holes of varying depths. The next stage is to apply a special type of thick, oily ink to the metal plate. This has to be spread very evenly, and it's important to make sure that the ink is pushed very thoroughly into all the recesses, or holes, as I referred to them earlier. When the plate is ready, a piece of paper is pressed firmly onto it. This paper must be slightly wet, so the ink goes onto the paper in a smooth way. Then the piece of paper is taken off and left to dry. If required, the metal plate can then be inked again and another copy made. In this way, one metal plate can produce many copies. One of these metal sheets won't last forever, of course. If it's used for making hundreds of copies, eventually the paper will wear away the surface of the metal and another plate will have to be made. These days, the technique is mostly used for short runs of tens of images. Of course, this process is incredibly slow in comparison with modern printing techniques, and the costs involved are large. So, why does anybody use it at all? Images made this way have a very distinctive character, quite different from images produced with modern printing techniques. The few workshops using this method today mostly use it for producing short runs of art prints, each one selling for hundreds or even thousands of dollars. Nowadays, it simply wouldn't be economical to use it for printing pages of books and magazines as it once was.